All right. So we're just waiting here for another minute, and we'll get going here. Very excited to be sitting down with Wes today from Lgcy Network. We're just going to wait for a couple more people here to join, and we'll go ahead and get started.
Yeah, glad to be here. Is that a baby Yoda behind you?
Yeah, I'm a crazy
nice.
Star Wars fan, so I love everything Star Wars and Harry Potter. I got some. Oh wait, did it fall off? Oh, so I got some Felix. What is it? Felix Felicis Liquid Sweets. I just got back from Universal Studios, so we loaded up stuff. So,
all right, man. This out.
You want to? Oh, what you got?
A Jar Jar watch.
Oh yeah.
And its lightsaber from probably '99.
Yeah, man.
I've had it since I was a kid.
Sweet.
Anyway.
Yeah, no, I'm a Star Wars fan.
Another time, another day.
Yeah, exactly. We'll connect on this after this. All right, guys, let's jump into it for people waiting, guys. I'm so happy to be sitting down with Wes here from the Lgcy Network. I'm very excited. Wes, why don't you tell them maybe what you do for the Lgcy Network and maybe a little bit more about your background? That'd be great.
Sure. My name's Wes Wade. I'm one of the co-founders for Lgcy Network. I do most of kind of big picture stuff, sort of involved in the team management and things like that, but largely concept and big picture stuff. My normal day job, I'm a pastor. I'm actually in my office right now. That's where I'm sitting. That's where these books are back here. So, married. I just had my 12th anniversary this week. And
congratulations.
Got four kids. Thank you. So yeah, busy all the time. That's what I'm.
You don't look old enough to have 4 kids, Wes.
33. So you can fit it in there somehow.
There you go, man. Well, great to hear. Why don't we go ahead and jump in on some Lgcy questions and really kind of, get into it. So I was reading through the Git book earlier, and I always try to, come up with, some solid questions to really try to paint the picture of what Lgcy Network is, kind of where it's heading and what's going on behind the scenes. So let's start out with something a little bit easier. So in the Git book, Lgcy is a proof of stake, open source blockchain with industry leading transaction speed and flexibility utility. Running on the Libertas protocol. Can you tell us more about the Lgcy Network and Libertas protocol for people that may not know?
Sure. Yeah. So we're a delegated proof of stake, which is we forked Tron's code. That's what we started off. We could talk about that in a second. But when we first started looking at what type of governance system, blockchain, we think works the best and kind of would be able to solve those issues of scalability, mutability, and security, and all those things. The delegated proof of stake seemed to be the best option because it did a good job of spreading out power amongst the holders of the token, and it didn't quite give a heavier weight necessarily to whoever had the most, as much as something like a proof of stake or something would. It also didn't rely on giving direct proposal votes to the holders, but it gave, in some sense, delegated that. That's where the word delegated comes from, of course. Delegated that to the more professionals who knew what they were doing, but still gave the holders voting power. So it kind of straddled the fence and gave the best of both worlds. That's why we went that direction. The Libertas protocol, actually, just to continue with that, is sort of our extra add-on twist to sort of where Tron had started with delegated proof of stake, in trying to more separate out the powers amongst the delegates. Gotcha. So one problem with delegated proof of stake is you do still have some issue of the top holders having more power, and that's okay. It's not bad for someone to have more power than another person necessarily, but you don't want that weighted so heavily that they're able to run some type of dictatorial control over a network. And so our Libertas protocol works to separate out our 27 representatives into 3 branches that are equal in power. So the bottom delegates have an equal say with the top delegates, which is meant to balance out governance for proposals.
And for anybody who doesn't know this, the three branches of governing for the legacy network are the executive, judicial, and the legislative branches, kind of like what we
Yeah.
have here in America, right?
Yeah.
Do you want to kind of get into why you decided to go that route? I mean, you kind of were hinting at it
Sure.
to kind of give, the protocol, more where it's not just governed by the top, maybe, 5-10 holders. It's just, it's much more evenly keeled. But why don't you tell us maybe from your point of view, why you chose to go this route?
Yeah, it's a good question. So we have 27 delegates. And in a classic system, you need a 51% vote to be able to pass a proposal. In our system, because we're separated into three branches, 9, 9, and 9, you need a 2/3 vote. So it gives. It's not necessarily harder to pass proposals, but you are going to have to convince more delegates that this is the right step forward. And so it's going to be harder to just kind of brute force your way through it. Now, as far as the way that the executive, judicial, and legislative branches work, yeah, we modeled that after the U.S. government because, it's got plenty of faults. But I believe it was Winston Churchill who said, of all of the forms of government out there, what did he say? He said democracy is the worst form of government that we have besides all the other ones. So that's what we went with. And yeah, they do different things. I don't know that we necessarily want to get into what they do, but they do different things. The executive is able to veto something that that a legislative would propose, and when there is a difference between the two, the judicial, which is right in the middle, will decide between the difference. And the reason we did it that way is just to kind of give the proposal writing power to the bottom, the signing of the bill bottom to the power to the top, and then when there's a disagreement, those who are writing right in the middle are sort of there for it. So that's how we laid it out.
So the legislative will be responsible for proposing changes to the network. The executive will be able to veto past proposals or proposals by the legislative, and the judicial will rule on vetoed proposals, right?
Right.
Awesome, man.
Exactly.
Awesome. And is there another? Would you say there's another network out there that's using something like this, or would you guys say that you're kind of in a very unique niche?
As far as I know,
Yeah,
I believe that we're pretty unique in this system, and I say that because we started this a few years ago, when we were working through formulating it and then creating it, and then sort of the bull run started and everything kind of boomed and went this direction and that direction, and there were blockchains coming out of the woodwork by that time. And so I haven't investigated every single blockchain out there. There may be something doing something like that, but when you're looking at just the top blockchains and the way that they're running things, it tends to be either your proof of work, proof of stake, or your delegated proof of stakes, which don't seem to solve the problems they were trying to solve, because they don't have this Libertas protocol system that we've come up with.
No, I got you. And just to kind of move forward, I'll ask you about the burn mechanism a little bit later here. Let's see. I'm just trying to see which question I should ask next here. There's so many details. Let's maybe get into so the white paper says you guys are EVM compatible. For anyone who maybe doesn't understand what EVM compatible is, could you maybe explain it to the audience?
Yeah, well, without trying to get too technical, Ethereum runs a virtual machine, which is how they work some of their mechanisms in the background. Tron was initially a fork of Ethereum, and so a bunch of Tron is compatible with things that will work in Ethereum's system. And we've just carried that over to ours. And the reason that we've done it that way is so that it's very simple to port things over to our chain. So one problem we've run into this with some stuff is you're trying to work with another project, but there are massive amount of changes that have to be made in your code just for a coin or a token to be able to work. And having a similarity in your virtual machines between Ethereum and Tron and Legacy now, it makes it pretty seamless to be able to launch your existing coin somewhere else.
Would you say it's been, I mean, when you guys first decided to launch, you kind of copy the base contract of Tron and kind of build on top of that, was there
Yeah.
any other, chains that you guys were looking at the time where you guys were comparing maybe, hey, this one has this or this one has this? I mean, what was the thought process behind going with Tron?
Yeah, well, it's a good question. Tron, it has its reputation. um, it had it's got its detractors for sure, and we knew that that was certainly going to probably come along with us if we weren't careful. But the issues with Tron aren't with the blockchain. Tron, we see a new hack every single day. What was it yesterday? Curve,
Yep.
and Solana every other week, and so on and so forth. Tron, as it just keeps going,
It's
and
been very
people
stable.
want to say, well, they're flying underneath the radar, and people aren't using it, and so they don't need to be hacked. Well, they are being used. I mean, they're worth billions of dollars, so that's just not a good. Um, it's just not a true statement. They're a strong working network. The problems just kind of tend to seem to be in the leadership, and so there weren't a whole lot of options when we first started working through this. We had some ideas of this or that, but Tron was the best working one we had out there, and the one that seemed to be working the best. And so what we did was we said, well, we like this from this chain. We like this from this chain. We don't like this because this isn't working this way. Let's take all these things to brainstorm how we can solve these problems and put it on the best chain we can put it on. And that's how we came to the conclusion we came to
Awesome,
for
man.
Legacy. Yeah.
That makes sense. And how long have you guys been working on Legacy, you'd say? Because you said it's been a few years. I mean, is this now 3-4 years in development? How long?
As far as actual development, the mainnet was launched, 6 or 8 months ago. Testnet launched about a year ago. Before that, I believe our fundraising was a year before that. So I think it's been about 2 years since our fundraising happened. I believe it was August 2020, but
I think so. It's either August or
time,
September. I was looking back at the history of it.
yeah. So we had been working, Justin and I, the co-founder, and I particularly had been working through the idea for Legacy for probably 6 months to a year before we got to decide that we're actually going to do this and be able to work through this. And we figured out all the things we need to figure out. Before that, we had been working on a crypto payment DApp, and we were looking for a chain to launch it on. And we just couldn't find one that would work well with it. And so that's when we had to go back to the drawing board and say, we actually need to create the blockchain that we can launch this on and get all of that going and working and running the way it's supposed to. And then we can move forward with this project. And so that was sort of the seed form of it. And I think that probably went back to early 2019, probably.
Wow. So it's been over 3 years.
Yeah.
Really quickly, a Seed of God he's watching right now. He's asking, where can I stake my legacy? And, kind of how does that work? Do you want to get into maybe, I know there's definitely places to stake and ways to do that. Do you want to get into some different ways that he can earn some passive income through Legacy Network?
Yeah. So staking is available on our website, on Legacy Scan, on our block explorer. We have a MetaMask type wallet extension that's been released that you can log in to the scan with. You can stake through there. You stake your legacy and you earn income in USDL, which is our stable gas token, which we can get into.
Yeah.
But staking is available and will become more useful as things get released. We're currently still working through trying to make sure all of our audits are correct and all of our testing is correct and everything's hardened and all that stuff before we start releasing all the big stuff. But staking is available currently.
Awesome. So Seed of God, you definitely want to go to their website and kind of listen to maybe what Wes said, and you should be able to find information there. And if you can't, DM me later. I'll help you out, my friend. No worries. Let's get back to talking about legacy and kind of where you guys are heading. Have you seen a lot of projects that have come to you that are, built on maybe Ethereum that want to move over to legacy because it's cheaper, it's faster, it's safer? What would you say, Wes?
Yeah, we have quite a few actually. I can't, because of non-disclosure agreements, can't give out names and numbers and things like that. But
Yeah.
one of the things that we wanted to do well, and this is part of what we put together for this chain, because we initially were DApp developers and wanted to run a project on a chain. The big problem really with most cryptos, especially Ethereum is the big, mostly used one, is just gas prices.
Yeah.
Right now it's great to run an app on Ethereum if you're a project because it doesn't really cost much. But when people are actually using it, you're going to use Uniswap or something, it might cost you $200 to make a $50 trade, and that's insane.
Or it'll fail and you lose your $200 and you have to do another
one. You
one.
can have gas wars to mint your NFT and you throw $2,000 at it and it's just gone because it's insane. It's a broken system. And so our big thing was we want stable gas. We want it to remain the same and not to be something that scales or that causes wars or anything like that. And yeah, so we have projects that have launched on Ethereum. We have projects that have worked with Tron that are either maybe upset at some of the stuff the leadership has done, or is working just wanting to be multi-chain, that are coming over to us because they are able to do something as simple as budget their gas costs, which is wild that we would even have to have that conversation.
It's a huge thing. Are you worried about Ethereum 2.0 coming? I know they say it's around the corner and they've been working on this for years. I mean, I at this point I don't know if it's going to be happening next month like they planned, but do you see any issue with Ethereum 2.0, or do you think there's going to be a lot of different networks that are going to support the mass adoption when it does happen?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I want to use Ethereum. That's the thing. We're all in crypto. Most of us, we have sort of our clubs that we like. We're part of this group and part of that group. But at the end of the day, we want to buy things and use things. Bitcoin was made to be used.
Yeah.
So we want to be able to use it. We want to be able to use something that's not broken and something that works well. And so yeah, I'm excited for Ethereum 2.0, and I hope it works. But I mean, we've been talking about Ethereum 2.0 for a very long time, years.
And I mean, if there hasn't been too many issues or any at all with the testnet, but if it goes live and there's issues, it could be a serious problem for like USDT, and
lots of stuff.
It could have a scaling or a negative effect depending on what happens. But only time's really going to tell what's going to happen. I know when you guys in the Git book I was reading that when you guys launched this, you guys are already able to do 10,000 transactions a second. Is that accurate?
Yes, I don't think we have scaled it up to that point at the moment because it's just not necessary right now. But we can do 10,000. I think we can actually do more without any problem whatsoever. Really, at that point, once it's open and released, it's up to the governance to propose speeding it up or slowing it down whenever they want to for the usefulness of what's working for the network and what's not. And that's kind of the growing pains of it'll figure out where the sweet spot is, But really, when it comes down to it, you don't need much more than 10,000 transactions per second.
Yeah.
I believe that Visa runs at about 20.
Yeah, and Ethereum's
20,000.
Like 15 to 20. Ethereum's like 15 to 20 per second, right?
Right. Way slower. So it does need to be faster than that. And like I said, so I think Visa's running at about 20,000, but that's for every single person in the world using it. And crypto's just not there yet. If we get to the point where 10,000 transactions per second is too slow, we will be in a good spot. And that can easily be fixed. So yeah.
Good to know, man. No, that's good to know that you guys are able to, scale it up to 10,000 and push past it if necessary. And I really hope it's necessary one day, and we're
Yeah, yeah, we're all looking forward to
10,000.
that. Yeah.
We're rocking and rolling. So let's talk a little bit more about the project in detail here. So Legacy utilizes 3-layer architecture, which is separated into storage layer, core layer, and application layer. And then you guys adhere to Google protocol buffers, which are the language neutral, platform neutral, and structuring of our data. Why did you guys choose this exact setup or something like this?
Primarily, that's just what Tron uses, and
Got it.
so a lot of what we did, even with our initial supply numbers, matched Tron, not because we thought even necessarily that those were the best supply numbers to have, but when you're taking a code and starting it off as a base, if you tweak a number, it has a cascade effect, and so the less amount of stuff that we had to tweak, the quicker and better we could get to something else, and then we could go back and change things later if things need to be changed. So like our supply numbers, we decided we don't need 100 billion tokens. We can pare that down way far.
Yeah. And you guys did.
And we did, yes. And if these protocol buffers aren't the best ones to use, then we can do that differently too. But those are the kind of industry standard ways to go, and so that's what we've stuck with.
If it's working already, you might as well stick with it, right? It's a proven method, and it's working. Everything's going well. Talking about the tokenomics really quickly. So you guys started out with 100 billion tokens, realized, hey, this is way too many. We don't need this. So you guys actually froze/burned. What was it? 79% of the token supply, correct?
I believe that's what it is so far. Yes.
21 billion left.
Right.
Yeah. Sorry.
Right. No. We knew even when we started that 100 billion was too much. We don't need that. But we toyed with the idea of changing the number, and it was going to change everything. And so we said, well, we can either just have this and get rid of what we don't need to, or we can figure out a way to make some of this useful. And so what we did in this burning, freezing mechanism is, a third of it's gone. It's just burned. We don't need 33 billion is gone. We don't need that. When we did our initial sale, all the unsold stuff from the initial release that didn't sell, that's burned. That's all gone. But we still had this issue of this remaining 33 billion in the middle, which we had talked about using for this or for using for that. And we said, you know what, it probably best just to lower the supply number by being able to just freeze this and use it for what we call our community trust initiative, which is essentially, it's staked in the background of the network. It doesn't add to the votes on the delegates in any way that's going to sway the votes, but it is producing a supply of our stable gas token USDL, and then what the government will be able to do is vote on how to use the funds that are produced by that. So it's useful, but it's not something that's going to be able to be dumped. In other words, we've got 33 billion floating out there, and it's not something that some bad actor can come along and dump on the network. It's frozen, but it's being used to create funds to supply future development for projects that want to come along and work with us. So,
yeah, you guys have a developer fund, correct? And so projects can come to you and actually seek initial kind of funding or help. To build on the network. Well, you want to talk a little bit about the developer fund, and then maybe there's a project out there that's thinking about building, on Ethereum, or maybe you guys that might take advantage of something like this. So any details would be great.
Yeah. So one of the initial issues again was we realized crypto is so much about community.
Yep.
You have to support your community, and the developers are a huge part of the community, and the developers are often the guys getting thrown under the bus or not getting taken care of, but they're the ones that are literally creating the projects and running things. And there are so many good ideas out there. but there's not a whole lot of funds to get these good ideas off the ground necessarily. And so we created this developer fund to be able to say, all right, if you want to come to the network and propose your ideas to us, we've got funds that will be able to at least help you get off the ground and get started. And working with some people who've done this type of thing before to be able to get you help and connections with good developers, good teams for marketing, good for this and good for that, because developers and investor community people they're the heart and soul of any crypto project.
Absolutely.
And if you've got blockchains out there that don't seem to understand that, and they lose people for those reasons. And so this is meant to help and offset that. And so, yeah, this 33 billion that's locked up, the point of it is once Justin and I have moved our way to have our hands off of the control of the network, once the network is able to be governed on its own, it's not that, well, now the developer fund is also gone. It's now the blockchain and the community is able to take the reins in this and say, now we can support what developers can do here. And so we hope it to be, something that will be good and fruitful and be able to continue in perpetuity. That's the plan.
Well, here, Wes, you set me up for my next question. Then, how far would you say we're away from the community being able to take over control, and you and Justin kind of sitting back and just watching this whole thing that you guys have built just kind of explode on the scene?
Yeah, we are. I mean, we're mostly there. We've sort of stopped giving timelines for when things are going to be released, just because it doesn't always work.
No.
And people get their hopes up and then they're dashed, and we don't want to do that. But things are not far. I hate to use the word soon. People get tired of the word soon, but I just don't have a better word for it. But really, as soon as things are released, we are at that point able to sort of take our hands off of the daily just upholding of things. Things would start to run itself at that point. And the way that we've designed it even says it in the white paper that our plan is not to be in control of this thing forever. We plan to sort of incrementally step out and let it work on its own.
Yeah, you want to make it more decentralized, right? You want the community to run it and take over. There is a burn mechanism to do with people with voting power and different things, right? I thought I saw something in the Git book about 9,999 tokens are burned every time. I don't know if I had that right. Every time a delegator is scheduled or voting. Can you walk us through maybe what the burn mechanism is to make it a deflationary?
It's a good question. I don't remember the details for that. It's been a while since I've talked about that, but I believe that when you're making something along those lines of applying for a position or something like that, you can't make it a free process. Otherwise, you open yourself up for DDoS attacks and things like that. And so we had to put some type of price on it. And you didn't want it to be some outrageous price. For example, at the height of the bull run, you wanted to launch something on Ethereum, you needed $2,000 or $3,000 just to launch a token contract, which is crazy. It's literally 3 button clicks in a 5-minute process. So we didn't want to make it outrageous, but we also didn't want to make it absolutely free. So there are some small prices of legacy within there that those things just get burnt. So there's some deflationary aspects to it for sure. And the idea of locking these tokens up and staking them for voting is really so that the supply will be more and more locked up over time. If people are using the network and people are using these votes and they're making some type of income from our gas token, then in a certain sense, what's out there on the market is deflationary because things are being locked. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, let's talk a little bit about USDL.
Okay.
Why don't we talk about what is it for people that might not understand it, and then how does it help the network maybe those two questions first, and then I have a follow-up to that.
Sure. So with tokens, those are your gas on the network. Ethereum is Ethereum's gas, Tron is Tron's gas, so on and so forth. One of the issues with delegated proof of stake is that the tokens are locked up, translated into votes. They vote for a delegate, and then they get paid out. They get paid out in the native token. And when someone's paid out in something, you are incentivizing them to sell it so they can use it for other things, right? The reason that you that you would have something in your savings account for APY is that you get money that you'd be able to spend. And so it's counterintuitive to pay out in the thing that you're locking up. It's counterintuitive to make something locked up and frozen and then inflate the network with it, meant to be sold. And so we took that, and we also took the issue of stable coins in crypto. And we realized, stable coins, they aren't backed by anything.
They say they say they
some
are.
more than others, for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
And this was all before, the algorithmic stable coins that even came into play, and certainly before the Luna crash and things like that. But just fundamentally, just looking at it philosophically, what is a stable coin, and what backs it?
Yeah.
And so many things are just backed by other things, and you start looking through what's it backed by, and you find, well, it's not backed by anything. This thing's backed by something, but that's not backed by. And you just go down these rabbit trails, and you find houses of cards and Ponzi schemes and things like that. USDT, for example, certainly has probably the majority or the most backing of any coin, but I don't think it's fully solvent. And I don't think it's ever been proven to be fully solvent.
They say it is, but I don't think so.
I don't think it is. It's big enough now that I think things are okay. But like you said, with Ethereum 2.0, you might run into some issues with it. We'll see how that goes. But really, so fundamentally, we said, well, if we're going to have something that's a crypto, something that's stable in crypto, what should it fundamentally be backed by? And we thought, well, it doesn't make sense to back it by the US dollar. It doesn't make sense to back it by Bitcoin. It doesn't make sense to back it by an algorithm or something like that. It makes the most sense to back it by usage on the blockchain. And so that's where we came up with this idea for what we call a stable gas token. Though it's not necessarily that it's stable at $1, although that is eventually the plan that it'll work out to that as it's being used, but that it is stable as gas. So $1 of server costs equals a certain number of transactions of USDL. It could be a little confusing for people to get their minds wrapped around because it's sort of a new concept, but the idea is that people have server costs to run the nodes, to run their servers. That's a real world thing, and they use the network. And so a certain number of transactions equals $1 in USDL. And so we're backing it by transactions on the network. And so theoretically, the more transactions that take place on Legacy network, the more robust and sustained and supported USDL will be. And it's able, in some sense, to scale because as it's being used in a smaller sense, it doesn't need to be worth $80 billion because there's not $80 billion of transactions taking place.
Yeah.
So it's the network itself that backs it. And now that's one part of the equation. The other part is that USDL will be the main base pair on our DEX. So we have it as a traditional usage of a stable coin, but we don't even like to think of it as a stable coin. It's more an idea of stable gas. And fundamentally, a project is able to come use our network and budget because they know if we have this much USDL, that means we have this many transactions for this month, and that's what we need to be able to budget for. Because they're not necessarily thinking in terms of how much money can we make. They're thinking, we know that on average we have 1 million transactions for the month, and we need to cover those transactions, and so we need this much gas. And you can't do that on other networks. Yeah. It's impossible. So That's the idea for that. That's sort of the philosophy behind it. I know it's sort of hard to get your mind wrapped around because
Oh,
it's a
totally.
newer idea, but
Yeah.
um, but that's USDL in a nutshell.
Gotcha. And isn't there another stable coin too that you guys are working with, or did I misread that on the Git book? Is it USDL? Hold on, USDL. Oh wait, no, that's it. That's the only one. Talk to me
Okay.
about Node. Sorry, it was I
No,
missed.
that's okay. I thought, hey,
Um,
I don't. Maybe I've forgotten something.
hey, guess what? We're building a stablecoin on your.
You never know.
Talk to me about nodes. I'm a very big passionate person about passive income and running nodes. I have several different projects that I'm running nodes in. Are people going to be able to run nodes, or are these for more projects running? Talk to me a little bit about that.
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm not super versed on the technical side of things
No
as
worries.
far as that goes. That'd be we could pop in the Telegram and Justin would be able to answer that question for you, or somebody would. I
Gotcha.
will say, as far as the passive income works on our network, it's primarily through staking and voting for delegates. So as a voter, you lock up your legacy. Let's say you have 1 million legacy. That gets locked up and translated into 1 million votes for a delegate. And what we've done with the delegates, they basically campaign for your votes and they pay out from their pay to their voters. So let's say they get 20% of whatever it is that they're working for, then they have 20% to give out to people. They have 20%. So they can choose to give out their 20% earnings to their voters, or they can choose to give out 2% to their voters. So it's in some sense they're campaigning for votes, and
Got
that's
it.
where your passive income will come from, primarily in legacy. And so, some people might spread their votes out to different delegates, or they might go this way or go that way, but it's up to the delegates to campaign. And the way that they do that is by offering the staking income.
Awesome. I know right now there's 30 nodes live right now, and I'm actually going to reach out to Justin to figure out how to put a node up because I'm very interested in that. So
Yeah.
I'll be reaching out to do that. I appreciate you talking to us a little bit about that. Walk us through how many projects would you say, that are building on legacy right now? Is it, 5, 10, 15? Is there a number that are building, or possibly projects that are said that they want to build or move over, or?
Yeah. I don't know the exact number, but it's certainly where a few dozen. I mean, there's quite a few projects, and they span from, well, we have ours loot up the crypto payment solution, and there's some NFTs, some games, just some regular NFTs and some games. There's some farming stuff. There's a casino. There's a whole bunch of different DApps
Being built?
that are being built, and I don't know the exact number, but
No worries.
there's quite a few. Yeah.
No worries. So Seed of God asked, he found the staking, thank God. So he found the staking on the
There you go.
website. He said that there's is the year option is that going to be the only option? Or are you guys planning on adding any other 6 months or
Sure.
3 months?
A year is currently the only option, but we plan on having, I believe, a 6 month, 3 month, and maybe a 1 month. Don't quote me on that because I'm not totally sure. But that is something that the delegates will be able to offer proposals on and make it whatever they want. That's one of the beauties of having a decentralized blockchain is if there's enough people that want to do something and the delegates agree, then they can make anything happen.
Gotcha. And I know, so Myriad Dex is an automated market maker designed to make it
Right.
easy to exchange legacy tokens, LRC20 tokens. That's also being developed right now and is being worked on. Is that correct?
Yeah. And I don't know how familiar you are with Tron, but the DEX is really kind of the heart of their chain. It's where the price feeds come from, and all the information for Tron Scan comes from, and that's how MyriadX will also work. Yeah.
Okay, cool, man. Wes, is there any question maybe that I didn't ask that, anything you feel that's important, maybe that we didn't get to go over that maybe the people at home would like to know? Um, yeah.
That's a good question.
We did
Caught me off
cover,
guard.
we
I
did
don't think
cover
so. We covered a lot of stuff, didn't we?
We did cover a lot of stuff. It's been
Yeah.
enough minutes. Well, let me do this. I'll give it to the audience. Maybe we'll give them 60 seconds to type in any questions that they have.
Cool.
Maybe if you guys want to ask Wes a question, I'd be happy to put it up and ask him right now. We'll give them 60 seconds. And until then, what's your favorite Star Wars movie?
Favorite Star Wars movie? Empire Strikes Back.
Right on, man. Right on.
Yeah.
Do you like all these new kind of side things that Disney's building, like Boba Fett and all these other
Not
things?
at all.
Really?
I will say,
good.
I watched Obi-Wan and it was pretty good.
Obi-Wan is fire. Yeah, I like Obi-Wan was my absolute favorite. But,
yeah, no, the new movies I couldn't stand.
Yeah.
7 was okay. 8 and 9, I don't even remember they were about. The Mandalorian, it's pretty good. It's take it or leave it. I'll watch it, but other than that, I haven't really paid attention to much of anything.
Yeah, I got.
There you go. I don't think I've got.
Here.
I've got a Weird Al Yankovic pop.
There you go. There you go.
There you go.
Hey, your background looks more educational. Let's see. Do we have any questions?
There's an Enterprise up there too.
Quantum Universe. Actually, he's been here the whole time. I wanted to give a shout out to Quantum Universe for watching. He said Obi-Wan is trash. They have called it Baby Leia. It's all good, man. We're all different. We all like different things, but it's a real pleasure to sit with you, Wes. I don't think we have too many questions from the audience. You did do a great job about covering the entire project, and I really look forward to having you back and really drilling down once we actually get more projects popping and we're actually in a bit of more of a bull market and things are going a little bit more smoothly. Okay.
Yeah, I look forward to it.
Great, Wes.
Thanks for having me.
Hey, thank you so much. And if there's anything you'd like to say, maybe in closing, now's the time.
I can't think of anything. If you want to follow us, you can follow us on Twitter, Lgcy Network, or we have our Telegram. That's where most of our primary stuff takes place. We've got a community chat called Lgcy Legion, where you can go meet a bunch of crazy people for Lgcy. So,
and I'm posting the Twitter right now in the chat. If anyone is not following Lgcy, go ahead and use that and follow. And Wes, it's been a pleasure to meet you. Truly, thank you for your time, and I really look forward to seeing what you guys build. And I'm a thankful holder, and just want to offer my big thanks to you guys for wanting to build something so cool,
absolutely
cheap, fast, efficient. I'm very excited about the future for Lgcy Network. So thank you so much, Wes.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Ciao, guys. Thank you so much for watching.
Bye.